Dr. Jessica Henry. Jess, you want to introduce yourself?
Yes, I am Dr. Jessica Henry. I am the VP of Program Development and Evaluation for Black Mental Wellness. I am also a licensed clinical psychologist and a mother of a 3-year-old who will be 4 in July.
Oh, I
I'm
got
sorry, no, June. I'm sorry, June.
next
My
month.
birthday's in July.
Yes.
Yep, June. Yep.
And I'm a mother of a 12-year-old.
Mhm.
So, yes. And I see you all are adding to the chat. So, welcome from Wisconsin. We have mothers who are having grown children. And you know what? The thing that I like about this too, especially when we think culturally, is we connect to our children differently, even across the lifespan.
Mhm.
So, even as your children age, your role as a mother changes. And so, it'll be good to talk about some of that. I see some people, oh, a 6-month old and joining from California. And congratulations on your growing family. And then 35 weeks pregnant with a 2.5-year-old. And so I'm so happy that even in the midst of all of the challenges and responsibilities that you all have, that you still created and made room for you today by coming here. And so I guess we could just start with why we're doing this program now, and then we'll go into some ground rules. One of the things that, do you want to go by first names? Like we're gonna make this like
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep.
so one of the things that Jess and I talk about often and in preparation of this is just the role of being a Black mother and wanting to do all the things to make sure we're raising these babies the best ways we know how. And there are some unique experiences that we're dealing with. So even as we think about like the role of politics, or we think about racial stressors, we think about all of these things connected to identity. And we just wanted to have a safe space where there's no judgment, where we can just talk about what it is to be a mother, where I feel like one of the things that I learned almost immediately when I became a mom is like, oh, there is so much power in who you surround yourself with and so much knowledge. And so there'll be some questions that we'll ask you all to share in the chat, because it's one of those things where you may have gone through something that I haven't, but you have some perfect advice, and we can each help each other through this journey because we don't all have the answers. Um, you want to do the ground rules, Jess?
Yeah, so again, the ground rules, I may have mentioned it already, but I just want everyone to be mindful of the fact that we are here to create a safe space. Judgment free, there is no judgment. We are not judging each other for what you mention, what you share. We are here to help and support, and it's a space to learn, listen, and grow. So just keep those things in mind as we move through today. And it is totally unfiltered. We are being very candid on our experiences. So if y'all have any questions for us, please feel free to ask those in the chat as well. But we're going to be here to ask you guys questions because we want to learn from you.
Absolutely. So, where do we want to start? So, we ask you all if you could check in how you're doing, but I guess maybe we'll start in. Oh, Jess, where do we want to start? I don't know.
Well, let's talk. How about this, Nicole? I'm gonna ask you straight up. How are you doing as a mom? Let's how
Okay,
are you doing as a mom?
I'm glad you asking today because I'm killing it right now because my baby did.
Yeah.
My baby dance performance last night, and she has another one tonight. And one of the things that I literally woke up this morning like in gratitude, and I went on. I knew today was going to be a busy day, so I went and I'm like, I need to start today slow. I needed to be intentional, and I needed to be by myself. And one of the things that I reflected on, I went on a walk around DC, is that, just the gratitude of finding community, not just for myself, but for my daughter. And having places where she can go and feel like herself, and have people that pour into her in ways that I cannot. And as I was looking at her perform last night, like several times, I'm not going to curse on here, but I was like, oh, snap, look at my baby. But it was also one of those things where it's like dance is a commitment, not just for the child, but for the parent. So there's a lot of things I can't go to. It's a lot of things I have to leave early. It's a lot of late nights. But then when I saw her on stage, I was like, okay, we can keep going with this. So
Right.
feel good as a mom today.
Good, 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 good.
Now, how
I'm
you
so
doing
happy for
as a mother? Tell me, where are you?
Girl, I'm on the same page as you. I think like so my mood changes as a mom depending on how my baby doing, like how she's doing, when my baby struggle with speech therapy, I'm feeling or speech in general, her speech delays. I'm like, okay, what did I do as a mom? Feeling down and bad. But the truth is she's killing it right now. She's thriving, she's doing well. She's her speech therapist, like she's saying all these amazing words. I'm gonna give you an example. So the other day she said, she's 3, right? She's like, she put her foot out on her step stool and she said, I can balance, mom. Like, remember when we was saying 1, 2 word sentences and her enunciation, like she thriving, my baby thriving. So I'm excited about that. But not only is she thriving there, we just got the good news. She was accepted to one of the top private independent schools in Washington, D.C., where Lauren goes, your daughter goes. So I mean, right now, as a mom, I had to tell myself last night as I was reflecting, I was like, I am really happy. You know what? And I had to pat myself on the back. It was like, you're doing a good job. It doesn't always come off like that because sometimes it's like, what did I doing? Like, why my baby struggling with speech? What did I do? I was pregnant. We blame and we worry. But right now, I feel like I'm in a good place. So yeah, I'm happy right now.
I know this isn't our next question, but I think that is such an important spot to sort of focus on is that a lot of times when our children are going through things, so whether it's something biological, whether it's emotional, whether it's something like academic, whatever it is, as a mom, we can sometimes we want to hold the responsibility of it like
Mm.
what did I do, and it doesn't feel good, and it's a challenge sometimes to separate between some of these things just are, and there are things you can do as a mom to like support your child and to nurture them and to help them through it. But it's still hard sometimes not to sort of take on that, like, should I have done something different? Is this my fault? What did I
The
do?
mom guilt is real.
Real. It's so real. And I think, again, we'll talk about this throughout, but this is why it's important to have community. And when I'm saying community, I'm talking about people that you can have honest conversations with, even if it's a bad day. Because one of the things we have to remember is people can't help you if you're giving them like the filtered version of what's happening.
Hmm.
So if you
Yeah.
are building community, you want to think about who are those people that I can be like, look, I'm struggling with this, or
Hmm.
this thing happened, and maybe I shouldn't have responded this way, but this is what happened. What do I need
You
to do?
ain't never lied. I'm telling you, I had a situation last week. I forgot Easton's dinner, and I was like, I came home down. I was like, let's go to the grocery store. When I say she had a meltdown, I was like, I get embarrassed easily. We are not doing this. And I know I didn't respond well, and I felt horrible. I
Yeah.
absolutely felt horrible. But it was like, you know what? I then went and apologized to her afterwards after I calmed down. I was like, you know what? And I had to talk to somebody. They were like, well, Jess, you do struggle with being embarrassed and you do struggle with it. And I was like, it was somebody who didn't judge me though. I
Mhm.
didn't get the judgment. It was like, you know what, that's normal. It's okay. You didn't know what to I didn't. I got upset. And so I think the truth is but you can always go back and apologize. And I think I come from a world where parents didn't apologize to us, from a generational aspect. Like you didn't get no apologies.
Mhm.
Like that was unheard of. No, so I'm trying to set something in place and do things differently. So, I was like, I'm sorry. She was like, I'm sorry too, mommy.
Mhm.
Like,
And then it melts your heart. But the thing that we do have to remember is we're human. So there will be times where we get embarrassed or we lose our patience, or maybe we don't respond in the ways that, textbook we should respond,
mhm.
quote, and we're human. Like we're
Yeah,
going through our own life experiences, our own challenges, our own stressors, and you're taking on the emotions of someone else. And so sometimes we're not going to get it right. Give yourself that grace and then figure out, apologize or what you need to, do to move on to repair it. So yes, that's always like in my mind, like, okay, I'm human, I'm gonna mess up.
right,
Mess up
right.
in this. So as we're having this conversation, like, let's be real, what has been the hardest part of motherhood for you? And then how have you managed that?
Okay, so I'm gonna be real. So
You
for
know what? I'm gonna
me,
put it in the chat too because I would love to hear from people in the chat just to see like if what your responses would be as well.
I think for me, I think I was mentioning this earlier to you, but I struggle with like I was not aware of the anxiety that comes after motherhood, the worries, the intense struggles with, what's next. And so it was we were always aware of postpartum depression, but no one prepared me for the intense level of anxiety that you now have as a new mother. Like, am I doing the things right? How am I supposed to be showing up better? Like, am I feeding her the right foods? Is she going to the right schools? And, all the things. Like, am I keeping her safe in the car? Like, are we going to die? Like, I had so many worries all day, every day. Nobody prepared me for that. And the mind that continues to run, like, I'm planning for tomorrow, next week, all the time. And that's, we still got all our other stuff we got to do. So it's like no one prepared me for all the worries that come from being a mother. And so I guess how do I do it? I go to therapy. I'm trying to just do the things like to help. Like I remember telling my therapist, I remember going to my primary care physician. I was like, generalized anxiety disorder. I know it. I'm worried about everything. I'm worrying about like, is she going to school? Is she doing this? I'm worrying about it, a lot of things that have to do with my baby and it wouldn't stop. But now, I do feel like I'm in a better place. I'm going to therapy. I'm back working out. I'm engaging in a lot more self-care. So that was my biggest toll. What about you?
Um, One, I just wanted to say I didn't have like extreme anxiety, but even still, no matter where I am, I'm always thinking about my child, right? Like if I'm on
Mhm,
vacation, wherever, it's like that. I guess you don't realize the gift it is where you could just disconnect. So even
mhm,
if I were to be on a beach somewhere in a different country, my brain is still going to be one, I got to make it home to my baby. Two, is she safe? Like there's just part of you where you don't have the luxury of just like fully disconnecting because your mind is with this person and their safety.
mhm,
One of the things that's been hard for me at one point, I guess it's like one, it was hard adjusting to like not being my own anymore. And I don't know
mhm,
if I'm saying this, but I'll use it from when she was a baby. But it's like when you go through pregnancy, right? It's like, okay, you know that your body is going to take care of this child. You're like taking this infant, this baby with you, right? Okay, I get it. But then when the baby is born and I was nursing, I remember there being a point where I was like, wait, so my body still doesn't belong to me? I can't drink what I want to drink.
mhm,
Can't if I'm out, like I literally was in Jamaica and I was in on at the beach and had to find a place to go pump because I needed to make sure to keep my supply up. And
mhm,
so it's that thing of like I'm not my own anymore. I am, but
mhm,
I'm not. And that takes some adjusting to get used to. So those were some of the hard parts, but now it's just about, I guess even with my time is not my own anymore.
mhm.
Have
That's
to
good.
balance, like my daughter and I live in a city where we don't have family here. We have support, but we don't have family and we don't have like a safety net, I feel. So that's
Mhm,
like super hard because you're always like, I'm always thinking like, if something happens to me, who will pick Lauren up? Like, it's like
mhm,
you're always in that space of it's just the two of us here. So that is a little, that drives me crazy a little bit. But part of how I've gotten through it, sometimes I have to readjust how I think about our village. So, in one way it's like it's her and I here. On another way, it's like I have line sisters and friends and you and Dana. Like if it really comes down to it, we have
mhm,
people here. And then when we have moments like her dance and people come from all over, I'm like, yeah, we do have community. That's right. We are together. But the body part is hard still. And I saw someone put in here about like not having time. What I have started, or what I've always not, I don't know if I've always done this, but I've pretty consistently done this, is I start my days early and this is probably bad. Don't do this, y'all. I start my days early and I don't fall right asleep at night because I need these anchoring points to just be for me. Like I don't want to, and because of what we do with mental health, we're always being pulled to like take care of other people. So when I wake up in the morning, that is my time. I'm drinking
mhm,
my tea, I'm watching the sunrise, I'm ha-haing on TikTok. I go to Pilates in the morning, I go do my walks in the morning. So that's how I start my morning. So And then I like to end my days in myself. I don't like answering the phone for people. Sometimes I may or may not respond to text during those times. It just depends. So I think you have to sort of figure out it's not ideal in the sense of maybe I'm not getting all the hours of sleep that I should. And I know that I would crack if I didn't have a break. Um, uh-oh, Jessica.
Self-care.
So, yeah,
That's what you're doing to, take care of yourself, and I think that's important. That's commendable that you are able to set that boundary.
yeah. There's some things coming up in the chat, Jess. So I just want to name some.
Okay.
The hardest part is there is never an end to all the responsibilities. Don't get me started. How do you handle that? Because sometimes I have to just say to myself, you deserve a break. And I have to like literally say it out loud, y'all. Like I'm not saying it like, oh, you deserve a break. Like I gotta talk a little forceful to myself
Yeah.
sometimes because I don't listen. You deserve a break. Put the laptop down. Don't do. I mean, this stuff will be here tomorrow.
Yeah.
Sometimes you
I
have to.
mean, I have certain boundaries too. So it's like for me, it's like I go to bed when my daughter go to bed. Like I wake up super early, even if I don't sleep a lot. So if I wake up in the middle of the night, I'll do work. But when I put my daughter in bed at 8, I'm not doing no work. We lay in bed, we read, we shut down, we watch a little bit of TV. 9 o'clock, the TV out. I might fall asleep then, and I'm okay with that. So I'm like, no, this is my time for my daughter, right? And I might wake up around 10, 11, or whatever time. And then at that time, I may do some work, but it just depends. But I have to shut down. Like your body can only do but so much. And our daughters and our kids are deserving of that time, that intentional time that we give them. So yeah, be intentional about the time you give them, and be intentional about when you're not giving nothing else any of your time.
Right, you're done. You're done.
Yeah.
I remember, so someone is in the chat, they talked about like how much it requires of you. And I think, I don't know, I think people don't tell you this. Like these are one of the things where you're like, wait, this is pulling on me in every way possible, all at the same time. And part of like before I had a kid, I was like traveling and I was outside. And I went on a trip one time and I came home and my daughter was like, I live in a condo, so I went to go to the trash. She came running after me. And my mom was like, she's running after you because you left her. And I was like, I didn't leave her. I went on a trip. She was with her grandmother. She was protected. She was okay. She need to have her relationship with you. And we had a conversation and it became like a line in the sand or something where it was like, oh, and I told her, you know what? She's going to have to adjust because in order for me to be a full mom to her, I have to take a break because none of this will matter if I'm broken, if I'm angry, if I'm irritable, if I'm taking it out on her. I need a break so I can be a better mom. And I want her to see me doing that. Like it's important for her to see me hanging with my friends or taking my girls' trip or doing something for myself so she can then learn, oh, I can do that for myself too. Because
Mm-hmm.
we talked about this, that meme that was like, I didn't see a woman who didn't, it was like, I didn't see a woman who didn't struggle or didn't have a hard life or something like that about not seeing women enjoying themselves. So
Mm-hmm.
yes, it does pull on you.
So that's another thing that I'm intentional about too, because you bring up I was talking to a black man once, and this hit hard. I was talking to this guy. He said, I noticed black women don't have hobbies. I started asking my friends, and I was like, what? And I realized we don't have hobbies. And I was like, I mean, it was really powerful. Like maybe we do here and there, right? But I mean, and I could find, but intentional hobbies, like, but that's because if you think about generationally, like, we didn't see our parents have hobbies. They weren't going out and playing tennis or doing the things, and maybe they took care of their garden if they had a house, right? My mama had multiple jobs. She didn't have a hobby. She took care of us. So it's like black women, it wasn't ingrained for us to develop those hobbies. So I'm very intentional now. Like, I need some hobbies. And every time I talk to a black woman, what are you doing for yourself? What are your hobbies? How are you engaging? What are you doing for yourself? The truth is, a lot of us don't have hobbies.
Well, this is a whole good topic. Okay, if you're in the chat, if you have found some hobbies that like help to get you through, please share, because this is a good thing for us to think through. Like, how are we developing and nurturing these other parts of ourselves outside of our children? Okay, this is good. So go ahead. Oh, you had a question, Jess?
No, no.
Oh, um, I guess some of this we've talked about, like, but have you, and someone put this in the chat, like there are some things, differences between like how your parents parented, how you're choosing to approach things with your children, or what route you may be taking that maybe other people didn't. There's so much judgment with motherhood, which is a whole different beast in itself that needs to stop. But how do you manage judgment, or have you experienced it? And like what helps you with that, whether it's creating or, finding spaces that feel judgment free. Um,
Mhm. I think for me, I mean, and I think please throw this in the chat and share with us how are you guys finding those judgment-free zones. I started having to shift my thoughts right from thinking that people are judging to they're offering suggestions based on their experiences, right? And I had to start thinking about it like they're only coming from their perspective because I've had a lot of people tell me like
mhm,
you're applying for these independent private schools, is that something you really want to do? Do you really want to pay that? Well, yes. So for my household, right, so I have to look at it like you're offering a suggestion that maybe I should go public school route, right?
mhm.
Because that's what you're doing, or that's a suggestion. I look at it like that's a suggestion because that works for your household. That doesn't work for my household. And so I'm going a different route because of whatever reason that I choose to do that. So I think I had to retrain my mind to say, okay, maybe they're not judging, but this is only coming from their own perspective because this is what works for them. And so once I had to change my thought process, I don't look at it as judgment anymore. And if so, I don't have to take and own their perspective. I don't have to do what other people think because they don't understand the nature of my household.
That is very true. And it allows you to separate, because I think what happens with the judgment too is that sometimes it can lead to guilt, like it's making you feel like, am I not doing enough? Did I make a mistake? Am I doing something that's wrong? So maybe, being able to reframe it in that way, that that's their perspective. It doesn't make it about you and needing to do something differently. It's really about them. I did. Okay. I don't, if people judge, people who know me in real life know I'm very vocal. So I've had to check a few people a few times and I don't get judged anymore, or I get judged silently, which I'm okay with that. But in the beginning, there were two things. One, me breastfeeding my daughter. My
Mm.
baby was kind of big, y'all. And I'm gonna call them the elders, like that baby hungry. You giving her that thin milk. She hungry. She needs some real food. I can't believe you not doing, and it was one of those things where it was just like, just want to be able to feed my baby.
Mhm.
Right? Like I just want to, like I got enjoyment out of, okay, it was a love-hate relationship, but I got enjoyment out of being able to produce what she needed to survive, and like seeing her little chunky body. But I
And
did,
knowing that the research shows that it's healthier.
it's healthier. Like she was never like, so I'm like, oh, I love that. So I had to kind of fight that part. But then there was a point when she got older. And we were at home visiting family, and she asked me a question, and a family member said, don't question your mother. It's this way because she said so. It was like going off, right? And I'm like, excuse me. I let her ask questions. It was like, let her ask questions. It wasn't like, and I'm like, I've just found if I explain things to her and she understands, then it makes it easier on me later, because if I can explain something, she's a very like analytical child. So she wasn't a kid that is going to be like, just do this because I said it. It has to make sense in her brain. So if I explain
Mhm.
it to her, or I help her understand why certain decisions are the way they are, or why when I say get in this car, because we in this what were we in one time? We were in like a parking garage and it's late. Like get in this goddamn car. We like we gotta go. Like explaining stuff to her that she understands. And my aunt was just kind of like, Like it was like after we had the discussion, it became a different like aha for her. So I mean, I still probably I explain a lot, but I think we also communicate a lot. So I don't know. So that was one of the things, right? Like
But
just
I think in jumping around to some of the questions, I think you hit on like some of the generational. I think we have on here is like one of the generational strengths have carried you through motherhood or not. Well, no, that's not generational. I'm sorry. But like some of the changes, like the challenges that are different from generation to generation, because it's like you're doing something that previous generations did not do, right? And it was like you just do what I tell you, right? And like I said earlier, I apologize. Like I want you to have a voice. Like those are things that we're creating strong, independent, successful individuals who are creative, who are, but we're giving them voices that they haven't had, that we haven't had
well, can I
as
say something
kids.
about that though? It's like the both and we're doing that. But what I will say is if you're giving your child something you haven't had, or you're being intentional around, like, I didn't like this as a child, so I'm going to, I want to correct that for my child, or I now have this knowledge, so I want to do these things differently. You are helping to develop something that you have never experienced.
Mm,
And you have to do the work on yourself so that you can nurture it. So if you're going to allow your child to have a voice, then when they use that voice, you can't silence them.
mm,
When they ask the questions, you have to answer them. When
mhm,
they are inquisitive or wants to do all of these things, you're the one who exposed them. So you have to nurture all of that when it comes up. And it can be a disconnect. If I
mhm,
think one of the big changes is like there is, and we skipped over this, but maybe we'll go back to this too, Jess, is that there is space for all emotions in our house.
mhm.
So if you want to cry and that is what you need, then do that. I'm not going to shame you for it. I'm not going to say, stop that crying, toughen up. This ain't even that bad. Like, no, you
And
need
question, why are you crying? Like we heard that.
I'm need something to cry for type of, like,
Right.
oh, if I'm going to give you that, then when it comes up, it's going to feel different.
Mhm.
And you have to be able to deal with it. So there were times when my daughter was like going through the crying phases, and I'm like, oh my, like it just felt in some ways like so different from what I was allowed. And it was a different shift in how I had to look at her development. When she asked
Right.
questions and one answer isn't enough, I used to literally say to myself, this is going to serve her so well when she's an adult. Like I have to think future because right now it's a struggle. So sometimes we give our kids things that we didn't have, and it shapes them and it expands them and it changes them. But you also got to do the work because
Mhm.
for me, it was like this, ooh, I don't know how to deal with that because I'm used to this thing
Mhm.
is or whatever. I never hit my daughter. So I didn't have like if I be like, don't do that, it's not a fear. I don't know. It's not a fear there. So she might be like,
Right.
and I got to figure out what my next response is going to be.
Like,
She's
what are your
not,
thoughts? What are you, back? You know what? We didn't ask this. How does psychology, how does we are both psychologists. How has psychology, your experience as a psychologist impacted you as a mother?
see, we be thinking alike because when I was answering that, I think, and not only are we both psychologists, we both started out working with children, like
Mm,
children
children and families.
and families, like that was our thing. And I remember like doing family therapy or working with kids, and they would always say, my parents don't understand. They don't listen to me. When I explain stuff to them, da 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 da. I told them about this, I got in trouble. And I promised myself I would never do that to my child. Like there will always be space for truth. And so Lauren was maybe, I mean, I probably used to say it when she was an infant, but most certainly when she got old enough to understand, you'll never get in trouble for telling the truth. I don't care what that truth is. Home has to be safe. Like if you can't come to me, then that means you're going to your friends, you're going to somebody else, and I don't know what information they may give you. So you will never get in trouble for telling the truth. I don't care how bad it is. Now, in the beginning, it might be something like, I don't know. She never hit anyone, but like a kid might say, "Oh, I hit this person or I did that." But then as they get older, now communication isn't this scary thing. Like I can talk to my mom. I know she's going to give good advice. Like now she's in group chat. She's in dance. She has friends at school. So it's like some come up in the group chat. We can talk about that. How do you respond? What is another way of looking at this? So I think it's always like that communication piece and making sure she has a voice. And then I always overthink the future because so many adults in therapy are like, my parents did this and my parents did that. So I'm always like, Lord, is this one of those like my mom did this when I was 12 and that's why I'm in therapy? But I do think about her future in that way. Like, how am I nurturing her emotionally and in all of these ways? Too much pressure for sure, but that's the mental health.
And I think, and as you were talking, I'm just thinking about like for me, like I think I would look at it like being a psychologist is a gift and a curse for having a kid. Like the gift is like, oh, remember when I was training in parent-child interaction therapy, right? The bug in the ear technique, giving parents who got kids with trauma histories or behavioral problems the skills to build a bond. So, every like I'll tell you, so we'll start playing a little bit more. So we'll play that 5 minutes. I'm implementing them pride skills. I'm doing the positive praise, the reflections. I'm implementing the skills so that we can have a bond. I'm describing, we enjoying, we're doing all the things. Then I'm like, okay, that's a gift, right? And the gift is also me being aware. Okay, I know how to do. I got some techniques. I got some skills. And then I also be like, okay, I'm very insightful. Like, how does my anxiety impact her? So making sure, okay, I'm not going to do this. I'm gonna let her drive in her independence, but not taking over. But then on the other hand, it's like the truth is we know well, you can't unlearn certain things that you know, right? And so specializing in trauma, which you know that what it's between 85, 90 so percent of kids who are sexually abused are by someone that you know. Right. And so I think that hits hard. So I'm a little bit more hyper vigilant. My daughter don't get to sleep at nobody's house. My daughter, unless it's her father's, right? Or so I'm like, but that lessens the support that I have. So I can't unlearn those things. So I'm very hyper vigilant around who is my daughter hanging with or who is she spending time with and who are people at someone's house. So I think it can cause a little bit of anxiety too, because we're just privy to a lot more information than people who may not have navigated a specific type of, educational
True.
background, psychology related.
I immediately went to, and this is why I had to stop working with children, quite honestly, because that whole piece around trauma, and they used to always say, we're not saying that trauma causes mental health issues or mental illness, but this percentage of our kids in this facility have experienced, like these types of trauma or sexual trauma or whatever. So one of the things that I did is I never used cutesy words. You have a vagina.
Mm-hmm.
Like we're going to call things what they are. We're going to talk about safety just to name it and all of that because it is scary. And when she got old enough to, because she's had the beautiful part about the school she goes to is a lot of the kids grow up together. And so you really get to know the families. But then when she got to like fifth grade and all the kids were having sleepovers, it would drive me bananas because it makes me so uncomfortable. So I'm still struggling with that. And then the last thing I was thinking about with being a psychologist is I use visualization a lot with her because sometimes she might get a little anxious about things, or it's like those what if thoughts or whatever. So we can like visualize what something is. Even when she was trying to ride a bike, I didn't know how to teach her how to ride a bike, but I could teach her visually what to do. So I guided this 5-year-old through, okay, we're going to go from this spot to this spot. What do you think you need? Okay, let's picture it. If you're going here, if you start feeling like you're falling, what are you going to do? How are you going to pedal your feet? And one day we were trying it and she said, I know I can't do it. And I said, oh, well, we shouldn't do it today. She said, why? I said, because we're not going to force it. If you already are saying to yourself, I can't do it, you won't do it. And the next day she said, oh, I can do it today. Okay, well, let's walk through the steps again. So I use visualization a lot. I use deep breathing. So I would like have her, I would say, copy mommy, take a breath in, take it out. And I would just like do these things with her. And then I tried during COVID, we used like journaling. So I do be throwing my
Yep.
little stuff
Oh my
in.
gosh. So Easton has that poor frustration tolerance. So I'm like, blow a bubble.
Yep.
She'll blow her bubbles and she just enjoys doing it. So I'm like, okay, you know what? We got some skills going. We got some
Yeah.
skills.
Something. Jess, you may be able to answer the question in the chat about Georgia because Jess has some
Yep.
connections there.
Any recommendations for therapists in Georgia, especially if they specialize in postpartum pregnancy issues, but not required? I guess I'm a little unclear. Recommendations for therapists in Georgia regarding what I guess I'm unclear. What recommendations?
Maybe if they specialize, I guess if they specialize, or yeah, I'll leave that one to you because you.
Okay, I guess I just wasn't clear with the, and so yeah, send me a message. I guess I'm just not clear about recommendations. How so? I know that you're saying if you specialize in postpartum or pregnancy issues, but what recommendations are you referring to? Maybe what
Therapist
specific, huh?
or a therapist, like specific people or person.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I
Yeah,
was
no, I'm still not clear. So if it's a therapist who specializes
like
in
a
it, like
mental
it,
health provider.
but recommendation for what?
Do it
One
on it.
therapist.
We'll talk on the side.
Yeah. I,
Um, Yeah, we'll do that on the side. So, okay, let's sort of like take a shift. So we talked a little bit about like some of the challenges we faced and people, oh, see, someone is in the chat. It's a therapist in the chat. Um,
Oh, I see. So any recommendation like referrals to people.
Girl, we
Okay, so
gonna
I
talk on
wasn't
the side.
okay. That's why I wasn't clear. I was like a recommendation. Like what kind of
Just
recommendations? I didn't know that it was
reading.
a. I'm sorry, I didn't know
Let's
that it was
take
a
a
referral.
shift. Okay, so
Yeah.
we talked a
Mhm.
little bit about like some of the challenges, and thank you all for opening up and just talking about the ways that motherhood, like that, trying to find that balance, not feeling guilty about things, like managing what family wants versus your spouse, what you want. How do you find time for yourself? And we've talked a little bit about like our role in psychology. One of the things when we talked about this program were those unique experiences of being Black or raising Black children and what that is like. So when you think about, I guess it's like two things. Like one, how do you like so we think about the world has all of this messaging around, who you are, who your child is, like, they try to define like their identity, their future, and all of these things. What are some ways that you are helping your child to identify a positive identity and build confidence, like despite what's happening in the world?
Yeah. And so for me, I like to say, like, I'm always going to do this praise. Like, and so people say, make sure you don't overpraise, but you don't do this. Like, oh, she doing something well. The other day, she like after I finished doing her hair, I usually bring the hair bag into the bathroom. I put it down, and she went and picked it up and carried it to the bathroom. Thank you so much, Easton. You are so helpful. I really enjoy how like that is thank you. Like I go overboard with the praises. The positive affirmations before we walk out the door. You want to have a good day? Yes, mommy. Why and why? Because I am smart, I am intelligent, I am kind, I share. Like, we're gonna build you up. We're gonna make sure you sitting on them affirmations. But I think a part of that is like not only building their positive identity, but like how we nurture them, right? And so I believe also exposing them to Black cultural representation. So my daughter has all Black dolls in our house, right? We have books that are Black and brown, that have Black and brown people and individuals. Like I didn't see that as a kid as much, right? But she's going to get all that when anybody comes over and they see, nope, all her books Black and brown, all her like what she experiences. She's going to see like, you know what? I'm represented in all the things, and I can be here. I can hold space. So those are different ways in which I help to build her identity, but I really believe in uplifting them and building her confidence by highlighting her strengths, but also recognizing my issues, my challenges too. So while she's independent, oftentimes I want to come and do something for her as a mom, right? And being nurturing. But it's like, you know what? That's a strength of hers. Let me allow her to do it. Let me fall back. And so I try to be very aware of how my stuff may impact her. What about you, Nicole? How are you out here
I do
lifting?
I do what you do. I did all of the things. And some of it may have been my own stuff, but I feel like the black dolls were ugly when I was little.
Mm-hmm.
Or like we had dolls where their hair was more coarse, and it's like, okay, I want a black doll, but I still want to be able to comb her hair. And so I did all of the things, like all the dolls were black, all the books were black, our experiences were black. We travel, which is I traveled, I guess, like more locally when I was a kid. She gets to see like different cultures and countries that I didn't get to see. So and part of it when we first started, I didn't think, I feel like her first vacations internationally were kind of like cutesy a little bit. So she didn't get to see like what it was like. And you know, Jamaica is my favorite place to visit. When we went there, I had a conversation with her, like, you're going to see people living in different ways, and you don't get to come in these countries and judge them. You get to sort of look at the beauty of people. And then you also get to look at these experiences and look at the range of ways that Black people exist. And now you have the responsibility of figuring out, if you got this exposure so young, what are you supposed to do with it? So we have those types of conversations. We travel, we do all of that. And then I'm really big on like certain things like that. I know I taught her very early, I'm saying early, y'all, she only 12, but I try to focus on things like, when she's communicating, like, you don't have to over communicate, like you don't have to over explain, your word is enough. So if she's explaining something to me, I'll say, okay, that's good, we good, I don't need nothing else, I trust your word because of who you are. If she is struggling with something in her mind, I try to, like, even before she got out of the car yesterday, I told her, you know what, you've been practicing for this specific performance since March, but the work really started, if we're talking about this past dance year, you started in July. So
Mm-hmm.
everything that you're supposed to have, you already have it, baby girl. Get out there and just be in the moment. So it's like trying to reaffirm her in ways that sometimes the world will take away from you. And then I do have conversations with her because her life is Black. Her friend groups are Black. Her dance studio is Black. My people are Black. But her school class is not as diverse as I would like. So that creates some conversations just in terms of making sure she still feels confident in who she is, her skin tone, her hair texture, and all the things. So, yeah, continuous conversations. Uh, and it shifts. Like during COVID, I was like, we live in downtown DC, so our neighborhood was boarded up. Like when all of the racial uprisings and all of that happened, it was boarded up. There were like National Guard out. So it created this environment that felt very scary for her. And one day we were going to a store and the police pulled us over. And they were looking for someone else. I mean, clearly, I didn't do nothing, but they were looking for someone else. But when the police pulled me over, I hadn't paid attention to her because I went into like protective mode. So the police come to the car, and I'm like, he was questioning me, like they were looking for someone who was involved in like a shooting. And he pull up, and I'm trying to figure out why I got pulled. And he's like, oh, we're just doing a check. I'm like, you're saying that, but another car pulled up. You got someone on this side of my car. You over here, y'all got, whatever else. Like, and I have a child in the car. And I look at my baby, and she's like sobbing because in her mind, it was this thing around, the police are not nice to Black people. They're going to kill us. And I said to this young white officer, I said, this is what happens when we have these types of racial experiences. My child is terrified. How are you going to fix this? Oh, baby, I'm so sorry. Da, 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 da. So he had to apologize to my baby, but that had to be a conversation, right? And I think that is why it is so important that you have this openness with your children, that you talk about race honestly. And the history is not all beautiful, but we are beautiful people. So it's the both and. I took her to Ghana, and it's like she's seeing these dungeons where the enslaved were held. And a part of me was like, is this too much? And this is the reality of the history. And you have to know where you came from, what our people have endured, and where we are, and what are the things that got us through, and what can you do with it. So it is a balance. It is a heaviness for sure. And I talk to people to help get
No,
through.
I mean, Nicole, that was really powerful. Like, I mean, there's so much that you're doing to nurture Lauren's growth, right? There's so much that you're doing to feed her, to educate her. So it's like the nurturing of the Black child is multifaceted. You know, you got to educate. You can't just rely on the education that comes from the school system. We got to do all the things, right? Show her, live by example, all of that, protector, everything. But I want to change over to like, because I think you and I have similar backgrounds, right, to an extent. And so I want to ask you, how do you allow yourself to give her experiences that you never had, right? And how does it impact or make you feel as a result? Because you talked about taking her to Ghana, doing the things, right, going on the trips. So yeah, how does that feel?
Oh, it feels beautiful, right? Because the blessing is one of my friends told me when I first had, I'm not gonna remember it right now. I'll just come back to it when I remember it. But she basically like affirmed like you're on the right path, and as long as you're on this path, the universe will always provide. And that's the sort of motto that I live with my child. Like, and sometimes in the midst of whatever we're doing, I just close my eyes and say thank you because she is getting a life that I did not have. Her reality is different from everything that not everything. I shouldn't say like that. My life wasn't horrible. Her life is just so different. And it's beautiful to be able to do that for your child, to look from generation to generation and see where there is growth. So I am, forever thankful for that. And um again, it's hard on some of these things because look, I'm like dropping all these trips, but we were in Cuba and baby girl was feeling herself. And I was like, hold on, sweet. I'll wrap all this stuff up. You don't get to act like this. You can have privileges and not be like act like you're privileged. You can come to these countries and get all of this exposure, or I could take it all away. None of this will matter if you, the person, are not a good person. And how you're acting right now is, I might have used some other words. So, baby girl wrapped that on up and she apologized and we kept it moving. So sometimes she has her little moments. I mean, I have my moments in life. And the beautiful part is we forgive and we grow and we move forward. So,
For sure. Yeah. I know I got a Disney cruise coming up with my daughter in June, and I'm so happy for that. And she's been to Mexico. Nicole, this is a story we both share. Like I didn't get my passport till I was well in my 20s, late 20s in graduate school, my PhD program. Easton had her passport at one. She was going to Mexico at one, and now we're going to the Bahamas and she got and we're going on her Disney cruise. I still have never been to Disney as an adult. Like as a child, I never went, and as an adult, I'm like super excited. Like I'm like, my baby gets to go on a Disney cruise and have a blast. I've been to Epcot as an adult. I went to Animal Kingdom as an adult in my 30s, but to never have gone to Disney, I'm like, I'm giving my baby all the experiences, and I'm happy. We got the ears, we buying all the stuff right now. We are excited, and she always says, "Thank you." Like when she sees her little her pirate costume for our Disney cruise night, she's like, "Thank you." Like I'm making sure that I'm also creating a child who is humble and appreciative too. But like you said, sometimes we might have to snatch them up, like
yeah.
because you are going to be privileged. We have to recognize that they are going to have privilege. But how do you show up as a human being that's still kind?
Because the other stuff doesn't matter. Like none of this matters if you, the person, aren't a good person. So I'm gonna
Exactly.
shift a little bit. I saw the time. We are like zooming through time wise. But one of the things I'm curious about, and maybe the moms or people in the chat, you can like add as well. Like as we're talking about all of these things with motherhood, it is just like it's all encompassing. It's all the things you have to think about. But you are an individual first. So, we have to remember that. How do you maintain your identity outside of motherhood? So, this could be your identity, it could be whether it's dating or your marriage, partnership, your friendships, your hobbies. What are the things you're doing to maintain your identity?
Please share, throw them in the chat. Well, what are some of the things you're doing, Nicole, right now while we're waiting for some people to come?
Hmm. Um, I do like traveling. One of the
Mhm.
reasons I love traveling with my line sisters is because I feel free to an extent. Like I can
Mhm.
just be a little bit. So that's one of my things. I'm doing a yoga teacher training, like which is just something like it has because it's mine and mine alone. Like it's been super fulfilling. Um, I'm trying to think of what else I do. Like I take on these things like I love yoga and now I'm really into Pilates. And so that's been something where it's like, again, that's mine. Kids can't even go there. You can't even come to,
Mhm.
this is my time, my thing. So yeah, so those are some that I'm like thinking off the top of my head. And then I guess like nurturing my career, but not for the organization I work for. I won't, who will remain nameless, but for things like Black mental wellness and for
Mhm.
private practice, like it means something to me to be able to grow professionally as well.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Anyone have any ideas or thoughts of what they're doing? Yeah, I'm about to say connecting with community, making sure that you're connecting. And I had to make that a goal because that wasn't something that I always did well at. So monthly, so I have my daughter 2 weekends out of the month, and her father has her 2 weekends out of the month. In addition to making sure that I'm social with her and we're doing the play dates and stuff, I got to make sure on my weekends, I'm doing the things for me too. So I'm building my community and strengthening that too. So yeah, it's important to grow as an individual and not just as a mom too.
absolutely. I did go, I took myself on like a self date. And
Mhm.
I started out, I wanted to, it was called Pilates and Pour. Like you, I did it last weekend. Like you do a Pilates class and you make a candle. And initially, I was going to send a message to my friend group, like, hey, y'all, we should do this. And then it just clicked, like, no, I should do this. And y'all,
Mm,
I had the best time by myself. It was people there. They were like, people were talking, but it was just about like, no, this, if I go with someone else, it might even take away from whatever it is that I needed in that moment. And
mhm.
if you have questions, put it in the chat because we have like a few minutes left. I guess we could go into it because one of them is it's easier to say than to actually do. This is a constant struggle. And I think part of it, sometimes you have maybe need to start small. Like what's one part of your identity you want to nurture? Just start with one part. So for me right now,
Mhm.
it's health, right? Like I want to be able to live a healthy life. So it's just like, okay, I'm going to focus on health. That might be my juicing, it's this yoga journey, it's this the Pilates that I do, it's my walks that I do around, outside. But figure out what is one part of your identity you want to nurture and then start to break that down. What does it look like if I look back at my day to day, week to week, month to month? I look back 6 months from now. What have I done for just this one part? And sometimes you may not even realize all the things that you have been doing. And if you break it up, it will at least, when you look back, if you break it up, it feels like more like attainable, like it's not too overwhelming. So maybe part of it is reflection. And then when you get to a certain part, you have it's the beauty of being able to say, all right, now I want to work on this part of my identity, or I want to do something else.
Mhm. Sure. So yeah, thank you for that. That was a good suggestion. Anyone else have any questions while we're about to wrap up? We have a few minutes, and this is really great to have this conversation. And anyone have any thoughts? Again, while we are moms first, we're also psychologists, and so any thoughts? We're here to answer any other questions you may have. Oh, I like that question. What generational strengths have carried you through motherhood? Please share so we can all take advantage of any generational strengths that have been helpful.
Yeah, and think about like what strengths have carried you through motherhood and which ones will you pass on to your children. I think on social media, it's all about like generational trauma, but there are a lot of strengths within our
Mhm.
generations, and we get to lean into what that looks like. And how do you incorporate that? So I try to do like my family is very big on like quality time. So when we get together, we're together. And, so making time to have the love of family, or there are certain meals that I will always equate to my grandmother or her brother, my uncle, and how do I share those things with my child? And I think like the holiday traditions were a big thing for us growing up. And so being able to pass on those things to my daughter, where it's like, all right, family is important. Like you also have a responsibility here, even if or you or not, you get to decide. But yeah, what are some of those strengths you carry, Jess?
Think. Yeah, I love the holiday season. My family isn't too big, so we don't do a lot, but we do stay connected, the small family that I do have. So we definitely do that. But I think some of the stuff that I want to pass down is just the healthiness of it, right? So, I think sometimes when you think about the trauma, it's like we don't talk outside of us. No, who is your safety? Who's your safe community? Like we don't have to hold secrets. We don't have to, if someone does something to us, no, let's share. Like let's share, let's communicate, let's get the resources. Because I think sometimes it's like, nope, we don't talk about it, we don't get the help. No, we're gonna get that help, right? We know as soon as something happens, as psychologists, we know the first as soon as you find out there's an issue or a challenge, treatment is important. So we're gonna go get those services. We're gonna express our emotions. We're gonna talk about it. It's gonna be an open house. Like we're not hiding our feelings. And so I just really want to pass that down. That openness, that communication. We share our thoughts, our concerns, and our feelings.
Yes, yes. And we have one question that I do want to get to. Like when we've talked about like a lot about daughters, but I just want to make a shift to Black boys. And what are some things or tips for raising Black boys? One, I would say, even for Black boys, making sure they're in, especially for them as well, like in community spaces where people see them, not an image of who they project them to be. We already know based on like the research that when they're looking at Black boys and Black girls, there, these I couldn't find a word, that people will look at them and see them as older or make these assumptions about them and their behaviors. And so you want people who can really see your Black boy as the person that he is. So you want to think about like, what are those safe spaces? It could be things like Boy Scouts. It can be, you want to think about things outside of only sports. Sports are good too. So that could be it. It could be soccer, it could be softball, it could be football. It also could be spaces like sometimes community organizations will do like mentoring programs or things like that. So you want to make sure that the exposure for your son is like expansive, that these are all the ways that Black men can live and be in the world. You can also think about that with the books that you have, so that you have books about scientists and architects and business people. Because again, you're trying to shape the reality of this person looks like you and it's possible for you. You can think about um, these cultural events. So I would, think about museums. We're kind of lucky in DC because a lot of all of them, most of them are,
Yeah.
museums are free. But you can think about things like museums and community events. And then who is your community? And part of that is having other people in your community, or that you can connect to. And sometimes, y'all, that community comes through these groups and activities that your child are a part of. It's not
Mhm.
always just like your friends or, some professionals or whatever. It's like there are people in my community that I met because of school or dance or a friend of a friend or something like that. And you want people who have, I think it's important to have people that either have like the same gender and age of your child or close, because then you're going through this experience together and you can talk about it together. Like, how are we going to approach this? You can also like develop new ways of having boys connect with each other. Someone that I know like started a book club for boys. And
Mm.
just think about the power of
I
that,
like that.
these young boys, like they're growing up together and then they're reading these books, and you can invite speakers or like, or you could have these discussions. So those are some things. And in the same ways, you want to think about their identity. Who are you telling them or helping them to affirm who they are? What are the words you use? So just like what Jess was saying, if I'm affirming, it's not just you're pretty, but I may say things like, you're a very kind person, you're
Mhm.
Oh, you are a good friend. You are a great son. You are, you know, so you want to sort of speak into them in those ways as well. Because and I'll tell you, I learned this from parents of Black boys, because as Jess mentioned, my daughter goes to an independent school, and I ask, is so many Black boys in that space? And I'm like, what is going on? Where are the Black girls? And they said, you know, a lot of times our kids get disciplined. Like you think about the harsher discipline, you think about the way they're perceived in public school, the way, you know, that how they might approach them or see their behaviors, or, you know, misperceive their behaviors. And so they've created this community with each other, and you become advocates together. So I hope that is helpful with that question. Anything else like that you all are thinking of? Are there future topics related to this or other things that you think would be helpful as well? Because I feel like motherhood is expansive in itself, but maybe there are aspects of motherhood that you would hope to learn more about, or that we can come back and bring it back together. Because there were some good things in the chat earlier. It was a lot of different topics, but are there other things that you would want to us to address or to bring in this community space?
Because we're always open to creating additional programs, events around topics that our community really enjoys. So, anyone have any ideas for good parenting books to read as a Black mom?
Mm.
I'm trying to think myself.
I know that is I gotta put this on the side to think through.
Yeah. Hmm.
It's very interesting that it's not one that I do have a book. Okay, I haven't read it yet.
Maybe we could throw our book in there too, as a Black mom, our teen book.
We can't let me get this. I'm gonna look. Oh, it's called see if I was fully dressed because I got pajama pants on, I would get up and get the book, but I'm not gonna do that. I do have a book. I have a few books actually. Hold on, y'all. One of it is called Revolutionary Mothering, but it's another one, and it's called Raising Free People, I think.
I think
So
I heard of that one. I
Raising
never
Free
read it.
People, I haven't read that one yet. And then this book is called Revolutionary Mothering. Um, so that's two of them. Now I gotta look through the collection. And then we do have a book, Healing Racial Stress. Oh, I'm gonna take this down too. And you know what? Maybe we can pull together, we'll send like a follow-up, maybe with some of these books. I'm gonna just put them in here. Okay. Uh, okay. And so maybe the next one is a book for how to talk about racism. You know what? We could do that's connected to our book, but we could do another talk maybe in the upcoming months about talking about
Mhm.
racism and experiences of race. We have a book, Healing Racial Stress for Black Teens, but there's so much, and we've done so much work related to how to have these conversations with your children, like what happens if it comes up and all of that. And I'm taking a list of all the books that you all are
And
putting.
also, we have a conference that's coming up too in November. I mean, I'm sorry, October. And so check us out. It's going to be it's for community. It's just not academic, but it's going to be all the things around just who you are as a person, you know, in this political climate. It's going to bring you community. So something to check out if you're interested.
Okay, so maybe I'm taking note of potential two upcoming workshops or programs like or talks like this. One about incorporating self-care with a tight schedule. So maybe how do we make self-care feel accessible? And then we had how to talk to kids about racism.
Conference will be held in person in Silver Spring, Maryland.
And I'm gonna put the books. I'll put all the information. So here I tried to do a list that hold on.
And the only reason why I mentioned the conference is because somebody's mentioned parenting for liberation. So we're going to have a lot of different, conversations about liberation and yeah, all of the things. It's about, us still maintaining our power and reclaiming our power while protecting our peace. Thank you, Nicole.
Mm-hmm. I try to help.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't have that, I guess we could send like oh, actually, sometimes, oh, we could send it because I think we'll still have the emails. We can send you the list of books as well. And then I guess thank you all both for showing up and asking your questions and adding to the discussion, even virtually. I think we need more spaces like this where we can ask the questions and not feel judged for what it is that our experiences are. And we also were curious about like, what is it that the community needs? So being able, I guess it would be good to really go into that self-care piece and like, really, what does that even mean? Because what the world tells us it is sometimes may not feel attainable
Mm-hmm.
talking about racism.
And discuss strategies for like how do we all implement them. Like if I get 20 minutes out of my day, I'm running downstairs to go run a mile real quick. I mean, I know it's not probably the best, but how do we fit it in?
Oh, you are so welcome. We're gonna do. I took notes, y'all. Look, I had it up. I got y'all notes. I'm telling you, next time we come together, we're gonna be talking about self-care because we're gonna get us right. Then we're gonna go to them
Hmm.
kids. Then we'll
Yeah.
talk about all of their issues. But we have enjoyed this, and we will be sending out. We can send this list of books, but we'll also see if there are other books to add as well,
Mhm.
just so that you have a range. And then we do have lists already for because someone had like a 4-year-old. I know there were some 1-year-olds, some babies on the way. There are
And
like
teenagers.
some teenagers. So we have a book list from one of our presentations we do on racism and building confidence in kids. And so we can include some of those links as well for like the books, just like, identity and all of that. Thank you all so, so, so much for giving parts of your Saturday. This is already your self-care. This is already you making
Mhm.
space and time for yourself. So I know it's tight, but you did it. Like you showed up today. And in DC, it is a beautiful Saturday. So look, y'all.
Yeah.
Uh, all right. This was good. Anything else, Jess?
I just am appreciative that y'all came out and spent your day with us, like
Well,
an hour of your day. So thank you so much.
thank you. Thank you. We'll be in touch.